What if the laws that shape civilization were spoken through fire? What if the voice that thundered from a mountain still echoes today? This is not just a story about rules carved in stone. This is a story of a rescued people standing before a holy God. And everything was about to change. The desert wind whipped across the camp as the Israelites stood at the foot of Mount Sinai. The mountain trembled. Thunder cracked across the sky. Lightning split the darkness. Smoke rose like a furnace. "What is happening?" a young boy whispered. His mother clutched him tighter. "God is here," she said, her voice shaking. 3 months earlier, these same people had been slaves in Egypt, chains on their wrists, whips on their backs. "We will never be free," they once said. But then Moses had walked into Pharaoh's palace and declared, "Let my people go." They had watched plagues strike the land. They had painted lamb's blood on their doorposts. They had walked through the Red Sea on dry ground. "Did you see the water stand like walls?" one man had shouted. "Our God fights for us." But freedom in the desert felt uncertain. They had complained about hunger. "We had food in Egypt," some grumbled. Moses had replied, "You had chains in Egypt." And still, God sent manna from heaven. Now they stood trembling at Sinai. "Why has he brought us here?" someone asked. Moses stepped forward. "Because freedom without direction becomes chaos. Today, God gives us his covenant." The trumpet blast grew louder. Fire crowned the mountain. Then the voice came, deep, commanding, unstoppable. "I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery." An old man fell to his knees. "He reminds us who he is," he whispered. "Our deliverer." This was not a distant God demanding obedience. This was the rescuer establishing relationship. "You shall have no other God before me." The words rolled like thunder. A young woman gasped. "No other gods," she murmured. They had grown up surrounded by idols in Egypt. Statues, shrines, images everywhere. Moses later gathered the elders. "He is not competing," Moses explained. "He alone split the sea. He alone deserved your loyalty." A shepherd nodded slowly. "Then we serve him and him only." The voice continued. "You shall not make for yourself an idol." The people shifted nervously. One man whispered, "But how will we see him?" Another replied, "Perhaps we are not meant to." God would not be reduced to gold or carved wood. "You cannot shrink me into something you control," the thunder seemed to say. Worship was not about what they could shape, but about surrender. Then came the third command. "You shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God." Silence fell deeper. A boy asked his father, "What does that mean?" The father answered softly, "His name carries his power. We speak it with reverence." The fourth command surprised him. "Remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy." The crowd exchanged glances. "Rest?" someone whispered. "We were never allowed to rest." Moses raised his voice. 6 days you will work, but the seventh is the Lord's. A former brickmaker wiped tears from his eyes. "Even slaves?" he asked. "Even slaves," Moses replied firmly, "because we are slaves no longer." The next words shifted from heaven to home. "Honor your father and your mother." A young man frowned. "Why place this among holy laws?" Moses overheard him. "Because a nation collapses when families collapse." An elderly mother squeezed her daughter's hand. "Honor preserves life," she whispered, "and God promised long days in the land for those who valued their parents." The mountain roared again. "You shall not murder." The command struck like a sword. They had seen violence. They had lived under oppression. But now God declared life sacred. A soldier muttered, "But what about war?" Moses answered carefully, "This speaks of hatred and unjust killing. Human life bears God's image. You shall not commit adultery." A hush fell over married couples standing together. A wife looked at her husband. "Faithfulness matters to God," she said quietly. Moses explained, "Marriage reflects covenant. Break the vow, and you damage more than 2 hearts." The people nodded solemnly. "You shall not steal." A young shepherd laughed nervously. "Even if no one sees?" The answer came like thunder. "Even then," Moses later told them, "if you trust God to provide, you won't take what isn't yours." Trust was the foundation beneath the command. You shall not give false testimony against your neighbor. An elder spoke up. Without truth, justice dies. Lies could destroy families, reputations, even entire tribes. Then the final command pierced deeper than the rest. You shall not covet. A man blinked in confusion. That's just desire, he muttered. But Moses shook his head. Desire unchecked becomes action. God sees the heart. It wasn't only behavior under judgment. It was motive. The mountain continued to blaze. 10 commandments. Not suggestions. Not cultural guidelines. Divine standards spoken by the Creator himself. The people stepped back in fear. Moses, you speak to us, they cried. Do not let God speak directly to us, or we will die. Moses turned to them. Do not be afraid, he said steadily. This fear will keep you from sin. Then he began climbing into the smoke alone. 40 days passed. Where is he? The people asked. Fear turned to doubt. Doubt turned to impatience. They gathered around Aaron. Make us a god to lead us, they demanded. Aaron hesitated. Bring me your gold, he said reluctantly. When Moses descended carrying the stone tablets, he froze. Music filled the air. A golden calf stood in the center of the camp. What have you done? He shouted. Aaron stammered. They demanded it. I threw the gold in and this came out. Moses' anger burned. He hurled the tablets to the ground. Stone shattered. After all he has done, Moses cried. The people lowered their heads. They had broken the very covenant spoken in fire. Yet God did not abandon them. Moses returned to the mountain. Forgive them, he pleaded. And God renewed the covenant. New tablets were carved. The commandments remained. God's holiness had not changed. His mercy had not faded. Years later, the law would guide judges, confront kings, and expose corruption. Return of the Lord. Prophets would cry when the people strayed. Centuries passed. Then one day, a teacher stood on a hillside. His name was Jesus. A religious leader asked him, which commandment is the greatest? Jesus replied, love the Lord your God with all your heart, and love your neighbor as yourself. The crowd leaned in. He was not erasing Sinai. He was revealing its heart. The fire on Mount Sinai may have dimmed, but its message still stands. The 10 commandments were never meant to chain humanity. They were meant to protect it. A rescue people were given a way to live free. And the question still echoes today. Will we listen to the voice from the mountain? If you like stories like this, subscribe to the Golden Bible Story page on YouTube. Follow on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. God bless you.